Welcome to the University of Notre Dame. My name is Dean, and I'll be your tour guide this evening. If at any point you can't hear me, please say something so I'll be sure to project. I know pretty much everything there is to know about Notre Dame, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Also, I have been trained in the art of walking backwards, but at any point, if I'm about to hit a tree or get hit by a bus or fall into the arms of some unsuspecting audience member, please let me know. Let's get started. One of the biggest parts of life at Notre Dame is dorm life. To my left is Alumni Hall, one of the oldest buildings on campus, one of the oldest dorms on campus. It was built in 1931. We don't have a Greek life here, but it's about as close as we're going to get. Next to them is their rival, Dillon. It's the largest men's dorm on campus with 334 residents. Here are some of the guys now.
I'm here. I'm present. I exist. I know for a fact my presence on campus causes people to question their beliefs and ideals. I'm a roadblock, standing in the way of people viewing Notre Dame as a fairyland university filled with people who look, talk, and act just like them. And I know my presence on campus adds some much needed diversity to the student body, and I understand that some people can benefit from just seeing someone doing their own thing. I think, or at least I hope, that I inspire people in some sense. But you know what? I enjoy being a roadblock. I enjoy rocking a nice tight pair of pants, a few piercings, some flamboyant shirts, and excessively styled hair. And the best part? I know what you're thinking just from the looks on your faces. A gay on my campus, wearing what looks to be female pants in my male dorm. It can't be. These things, they all remind me that I'm hardly welcome to take part in the rich brotherhood and tradition of my dorm, or at least in my current form. Maybe if I spoke in a way that pleased people more, maybe if I dressed in a way that was a better forming, is that what it would take for me to be a part of your community? I've spent my entire fucking life conforming to the standards of who I'm supposed to be. When the fuck can I just be free? When will some of my fellow students, some of the country's best, understand that difference is okay? Difference is healthy. Difference is normal. And you know what? I wish that I could give a closeted LGBTQ person the push they need to be a little bit more comfortable with themselves, but god damn it, it's not always easy. And I know so many of you listening right now are probably thinking, I think difference is okay. I think difference is normal and healthy. I must be accepting. Then all I ask is engage with those that are different from you. Talk to us, learn from us, gain a new perspective on life. Maybe then you'll see we just aren't so different after all.
My second weekend of freshman year, I had my first Notre Dame hookup, by which I mean I was making out with a girl. We'd gone back to my room, mainly because it was more private and way less stuffy than the dorm party. After a while of going at it, I started looking for the hook on her bra to take it off. She asked me to stop. She wasn't that kind of girl, so I stopped, and that was it. I was actually fine with her stopping me there. You see, at this point, I was a virgin, and while I was somewhat open to the idea of random hookups, it wasn't how I wanted my first time to go. And I know that taking a girl's bra off doesn't automatically mean you're going to have sex, but it's part of the physical escalation that can lead to sex. The thing that bothers me about the situation is that had she let me keep going and then taken it further herself, like all the way to sex, I would have gone along with it. I would have had sex with her even though that wasn't how I wanted my first time to go. Why would I have done that? Because society expects it of me. Because it's the social script. I'm a college male, and that means that I'm supposed to take girls back to my room and then have sex with them. If that second weekend freshman year, she'd wanted to go further and I'd been the one to say no, that would have been breaking from the script. Later, after I lost my virginity, I decided I was fine with the idea of having sex with people I wasn't particularly attached to. Didn't happen often, but one time, I got to follow the script perfectly. I was talking to this girl at a party who was clearly into me, We were both drinking and she was definitely a bit drunk. After a little while of talking, I asked if she wanted to go back to my room. She said yes. So we walked out of the dorm party, around the corner, and into my room. After a while of a little making out, we started to have sex. I noticed some blood on the condom, but honestly, my first thought was, is this girl on her period or something? After we were done, I mentioned it. I mean, what was I supposed to do? I couldn't exactly ignore the blood dripping down her leg onto the carpet. And then she told me she'd been a virgin. I didn't know what to say. I had no idea going into this that she was a virgin. I helped her clean herself up a bit, and she left. I spent the next hour trying to get the blood out of my carpet. It took so freaking long that at times I felt like Lady Macbeth yelling, "Out, damn spot!" like I was trying to wash away some sin. It certainly gave me plenty of time to reflect. Was this what she wanted to do? Was this how she wanted to lose her virginity to some random guy she just met at a party? And if it was this who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do? Did I really want to have sex with girls I just met? And trust me, I thought a lot about the consent issues of her being drunk, and while she seemed to happily go along with it, I never explicitly asked for verbal consent. I still think about that part a lot. The thing is that's also part of the script. College students are supposed to have sex with people they've just met at parties, so naturally one or both of them will be drunk. They're supposed to make out, strip, and have sex without the need to talk about it because silence is sexy or something. I'm not saying all this to justify my actions. I don't think I can justify my actions. I still feel weird about it. The girl added me on Facebook 2 days later, but I never saw her again. So that's it. These are the kind of relationships the script builds. I took her virginity, and now we're Facebook friends. I think we can all agree that there's a major problem with societal expectations if this is where they lead. So how are we going to change the script?
Question?
What do students do for fun on campus?
Great question. There are all kinds of dorm events, like fundraisers and dinner dates, and there's always something going on campus, some event happening. We also have SYRs, which are pretty much just dorm dances on the weekend.
When Matt asked me to his dorm formal, I knew it wasn't his first choice. He'd already asked several of my girlfriends, all of whom were busy that night. Sure, it hurt my pride a little bit that I wasn't his first pick, but hell, it was freshman year, I was lonely, and no one had asked me to a dorm dance before. Part of me felt honored that this popular guy had even considered me as a potential date. We pre-gamed in his dorm room with his friends and all their dates. I didn't know anyone else there, just Matt. He told me I looked beautiful, and I flushed with happiness, relieved that someone at the school had finally noticed me. We drank peppermint patties, chugged directly from handles of vodka, got as shit-faced as we could before the shuttle pulled up and we were off to some off-campus country club. "I hope it's not going to be weird," he slurred, "dancing together, 'cause we're such close friends." "Don't worry," I reassured him. "It'll be fine. We'll just fun dance." And at first it was fine. We swing danced, square danced, laughed at our drunken missteps. But then the music shifts, and all of a sudden Matt's gripping my hips and shoving his lips against mine. I'm all too aware that we're in the center of the dance floor, surrounded by his entire dorm and their dates, none of whom are making out, I might add. And I'm so uncomfortable, I pull away from him and say, "I don't really like PDA." He pouts. "I know you're not attracted to me," he says. "You don't think I'm hot." No, of course that's not it. I trail off because I don't know what else to say. And I feel so guilty that when he leans in again, I don't protest. Then his tongue is in my mouth. His hands are on my waist, my ass, my chest. And I'm just trying to keep him from reaching up my dress on the dance floor. But how can I do that without hurting his feelings again? Without damaging our precious friendship? Surrounded by strangers, I have no idea when the next shuttle leaves for campus. I've forgotten my phone and I'm drunk. I don't want to kiss him. Not here in front of everyone, but he's insistent. By the time we make it back to campus, I've given up on resisting his advances. He takes me to his room, and I don't object because, hell, I haven't hooked up with anyone at Notre Dame yet. And why not continue our makeout in privacy since we've already hooked up in front of his entire fucking dorm? He keeps pulling my dress up over my hips, and I keep subtly tugging it back down, but I remain in his room thinking, what's the harm? Why not try to enjoy it? He jabs 2 fingers up inside me. And I wince because nothing has been up there before. It hurts. And he slurs, "Don't worry, I'm really good at this." I pull away, and within seconds he's snoring and I can stumble out of his dorm unnoticed. I try not to think about it, try to pretend none of it happened. Until the spring when I start seeing someone else in his dorm. And one day it slips out. I start telling him about that god-awful winter formal. He bursts out laughing. "Holy shit, that was you," he says. "You were the girl Matt was pawing all night?" Oh my God, my friends and I could not stop laughing about it. About that poor girl Matt wouldn't keep his hands off of. He sees my expression, stops, comes to his senses, says, "Shit, I'm so sorry. It's not funny at all."
To my right, your left is Lions Hall, a women's hall. Notre Dame lore says that once a young couple kisses under those glorious arch, they will soon be destined to wed.
I've never taken much stock in love at first sight or soulmates or any of that fairy tale shit. But from the moment I first laid eyes on her, on one of the first days of class freshman year, my stomach started doing flips, my fingers tingled, my ears rang, and my vision went blurry. I fell in love with her before I even knew her name. And I knew that I would love her infinitely more than I could ever love my high school girlfriend, who, admittedly, I was still involved with at the time. Our connection was automatic. Our chemistry was so natural. Never before had I felt this way, so happy, energetic, filled with love and life, yet also so scared, nervous, and vulnerable, all at the same time. We became fast friends, but we both yearned for something a little bit more. And then one night, after I'd ended things with my high school girlfriend, I stood outside her dorm room and I threw a snowball up at her window. She joined me down in the quad and we made snow angels. And without either of us having to say a word, that longing for each other, that indescribable moment when we first met, it all came rushing back. And we kissed. Finally. Our kiss felt like the weight of the world had been lifted off my shoulders. We both grinned. We couldn't help it. We were finally together and we couldn't have been happier about it. It seemed like we were well on our way to happily ever after. We hung out all the time. We teased each other. We laughed together. We went on long walks with no destination in sight. We talked about sex and we agreed that we would take it slow. I told her I'd wait forever for her. And I meant it. But then something started to change. I didn't even notice it at first. It was such a slow, gradual change. But by the end of our first semester dating, something felt different. Just lower energy, exhausted, off. I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. I just made excuses like, "Oh, don't worry, I had a rough finals week." Or, "No, I'm just homesick." But she knew me too well, and she saw right through these excuses. She asked me to get help, but I continued to spiral downwards. I had my head so far up my ass that I couldn't even realize how depressed I was. I went into free fall and became a downright monster. A terrible friend, roommate, brother, son, and worst of all, boyfriend. I've tried to deny it, but I can't anymore. I was abusive. Now I know I didn't leave her with any bruises or broken bones or anything like that, but I left her with serious emotional and psychological scars. And maybe that's worse. I manipulated her and I tried to control what she did, what she wore, what she drank. I belittled her and her many, many achievements, and I suddenly pressured her into having sex. She loved me and she trusted me, and I destroyed our relationship. I can never apologize enough for how much I've hurt her. She stayed with me much longer than I deserved, and when she finally did break up with me, it killed me. But it also saved my life. Our breakup was my rock bottom, but it forced me to finally get the help I needed. You may think I'm telling you this out of some desperate, far-fetched attempt to get back the girl of my dreams, but that would just be wasting my breath. I don't deserve a second chance. All I've left to offer her is my meager apology. I'm sorry. I know that my words will never be enough, but from the bottom of my heart, I am truly, truly sorry. I'm telling you this in order to address those people that are currently suffering through an abusive relationship. I hope you have the strength and resolve to break up and know that you deserve so much more. And for those of you that are struggling in my shoes, suffering under the strain of mental illness, please, I beg of you, get the help you need. Learn from my mistakes, and don't let what happened to me happen to you. At least, let something good come of my mess.
We just got engaged. See, we met when I was a freshman. I had just joined this new group of people on campus that were a lot different from my friends back home. He and I actually met when we were writing thank you notes and baking cookies for Holy Cross Priest. The guys in the group were really great about walking the girls back to their dorms. So we had a lot of alone time on the walk across campus where we could just be ourselves and talk. Eventually, I just had to tell him, "Hey, I like you." And then I ran away. I didn't want to make him feel pressured. But at the same time, I knew we were both looking for a dating relationship that was discernment for marriage, so I didn't want it to be taken lightly either. At first, we would just eat in the dining hall together and do homework together. Before we even started dating, we both had a firm understanding of what the true purpose of dating was, and that we wanted to get married and have lots of kids. We both also agreed to make some firm boundaries, both physically and emotionally. I had felt some pressure based on the way things had been in my high school. But this time, things were so different. We both had the same values. He and I actually agreed not to kiss until we were sure we were getting married. And we kissed about a year later on my birthday. And now, we're so comfortable planning our future together. I love everything about him. It really just is that simple.
I don't have a lot of exposure to the campus at large, but in my classes, I hear people talking about being sexually active and all the complicated feelings involved. I think it's sad that people are buying into the mainstream, popular view of sex, which is not the truth about sex at all. They're cheapening it in a way by making it recreational and all about pleasure. I can't know whether they're actually happy, but I have a hard time believing they are. Our friends really aren't that sort. Most of them are discerning the priesthood, or in very serious, committed relationships, like we are. I believe in the idea of traditional family values. There's a reason these things are traditional. I am going to be the main breadwinner, and we hope that eventually she can stay at home with the kids. Someone's got to make the decisions, and it's understood that that will be me. I think that gets kind of a bad rap these days. I mean, I expect a good wife to be obedient, sure, but that doesn't mean that I'll be bossing her around. It's also my job to treat her well, and to love, and support and take care of her for the rest of our lives. We have this love for each other, and for the church. That's where all love and truth comes from.
At 48,000 square feet, this bookstore is actually one of the largest bookstores in the nation. Now, we've come to the grand cul-de-sac of Notre Dame Avenue, the main entrance of our great university. Students from all 50 states and around the world come here to their new home under the dome.
Graham and I hooked up once or twice at the start of freshman year. But it was just drunken dance floor makeouts. It didn't mean anything. Sure, I knew he had a crush on me, but when I started seeing someone else, he seemed genuinely cool with just being friends. So when he invited me to a party at his house over the summer, I happily drove the 45 minutes between our hometowns, ready for a good time. We were playing drinking games with his other friends, and everything was going fine until Graham kissed me out of the blue. I pulled away, of course, reminded him that I was in a relationship. He looked so heartbroken, I almost felt bad for rejecting him. His friends left soon after, but I was too drunk to drive and it was too far for an Uber. "It's fine," Graham said, "just stay the night." He started kissing me again, relentless. "I've always wanted you," he said. "I am in love with you." I didn't know what to do. I felt trapped, confused. How could I get out of there? "I don't want to do this right now," I told him. "It's fine, just keep going." I started crying, sobbing, feeling so guilty for betraying my boyfriend, rattled by Graham's advances. He was drunk and persistent, and I thought, well, it's not the first time we've made out. Maybe I have been leading him on. Maybe it would just be easier to go along with it. He started fingering me and I pretended to enjoy it. Then he said, "Hey, we should have sex," and I didn't say anything. He put the condom on and went for it. He was smiling so blissfully, thrusting so passionately, and he kept saying how happy he was that we were finally together. What seems impossible to believe is that he didn't notice how uncomfortable I was, how dry I was. He fell asleep soon after with his arms around me, and I extricated myself, slept on the couch downstairs, and drove home as soon as I could. I didn't think of it as rape, not at first. My boyfriend and I stayed together, and Graham seemed genuinely disappointed by this. He thought he'd succeeded in separating us. But I grew increasingly numb, and then the panic attack set in, and then I couldn't date anyone anymore. Couldn't even be alone with guy friends. Every time I'd be with a guy, I'd ask myself, am I leading him on? I finally started to feel better when I confronted Graham about that night. I didn't report him to the university. I mean, he messed up in a major way, but he's not a bad guy, and I didn't want to ruin his whole life. I told him about how he'd hurt me, how he'd raped me. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I guess I was just so wrapped up in my own desires, I didn't stop to think about yours. I didn't mean for it to be so forceful." His apology seemed sincere, and it did make me feel better. And I figured he'd be more cautious and less self-absorbed with future hookups. But that didn't change the fact that he raped me, that he was my friend, and that he should have known better, that he should have thought less about his own desires and thought more about how I did not want to have sex with him. I've thought a lot about the idea of consent since then, about how we should define it. Some people think that you should stop before each step and hookup to ask, is this okay? Is this okay? But that strikes me as incredibly weird. Instead, I like the idea of enthusiastic consent, of getting a yes before moving on to the next step, of taking cues from your partner, not just moving on because you don't get a firm no. Because giving in is not a yes. Giving in is not consent.
I used to think that nobody could hurt you unless you let them. I was wrong. Last summer, I threw a surprise party for a friend. Invited a couple of people I thought were mature enough to handle the alcohol without any drama. I was wrong. We played the usual drinking games, got good and drunk, then sat around the bonfire in high spirit. I misread the advances made by a friend, brushed him off 4 times, thought nothing of it. Then this guy I'd thought was my friend, raped me. The word weighs heavy in the deepest part of me, rape. Never before had someone taken something from me, some part of me that felt so irreplaceable. The worst part wasn't the penetration. It was the powerlessness. The feeling that I was going along with someone else's desires, someone else's demands. I slept the entire next day. Something in me didn't want to wake up. I thought maybe I could just sleep it off. But I was wrong. I woke up angry, texted my friend, demanded to know why he had let him do that to me. Why he hadn't stopped my attacker. He said, I don't have a leash on him. It's not like you haven't fucked him before. My other friends were upset. They said I'd ruined the party, that I shouldn't let him on. So I blamed myself, convinced myself that it was my fault. I shouldn't have invited him. I shouldn't have drinking that much. I shouldn't have worn that crop top. I should have fought him off. Never mind that he outweighed me by 100 pounds. Never mind that it was summer and hot and the other girls were dressed in the exact same way. Maybe my attacker thought it was fine because I'd had sex with him before. Maybe I should have never crossed that line in the first place. Maybe then I wouldn't have gotten myself into this situation. I grew increasingly isolated. It was like my attacker had taken over my entire being, body, and soul. That night he raped me. It took months for me to regain control of my mind again. Eventually, I pressed charges. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but it was the only way for me to realize that it wasn't my fault. I hadn't led him on. And even if I had, that wouldn't have justified his behavior. I never gave him an explicit sexual invitation. Only when I realized that, only when I acknowledged his guilt instead of my own, did I find myself again. I cannot forget my rape. I cannot sleep it off. But I can control the way I think about it. Now I see myself as so much more than a victim of sexual assault. I am strong, powerful, worthy of respect, and no one can take that from me.
Next up, we come to one of the oldest buildings on campus, the LaFortune Student Center. LaFun, as it is known now, since 1953, has functioned as the student union building where students can gather and often run into other students. Hey, Katie, that's my friend from Chicago.
My sister would jump up to the top shelf of the glass cupboard and bring 3 glasses down to the floor with her. She would lie about what the glass shattering noise was, who did it, and how many broke. I would just watch the whole thing unfold, then listen carefully to my mom tell my sister, think before you act. But what my mom didn't consider were those situations where you don't have the luxury of thinking before acting. Sometimes, by the time you finish thinking, you have to start picking up the shards of glass. I was completely out of the closet in high school, and proud of it. Then I came here and I felt a different kind of pressure, pushing me back inside. I'd be at a party with my friends and I'd hear the voice of some random tall blonde dude saying, "Well, that's the gayest walk I've ever seen." So I reacted like I would have back in high school. Fuck the uber conservative don't ask tell bullshit and said, "That's because I'm gay!" He scoffed, cursed my sexuality, and as he was leaving, he spit in my face. But no big deal, no broken glass, just a little bit of spit. That I could handle. A few weeks later, I'm in the dining hall, and I hear two guys from my dorm talking. One is bitching about some shit, and all I hear is blah, 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 this faggot, blah, blah, blah. And for half a second, I thought he was talking about me. But I finished my meal, and a few minutes later, I calmly picked up my tray and brought it to the tray return. Mother would have been so proud. No sudden outbursts, no split-second decisions. I just decided to move on. But I wasn't always that lucky. Junior year, this year, I was at a big house party. It got busted. Police were at the front door. We were all huddled up in some dark room upstairs. I was laughing quietly with my friend. One of the guys who lived in the house was sitting next to me and jumped on top of me and started choking out my laughter. "Shut up, bitch! Shut the fuck up, you little faggot! I don't need the police coming here because some gay little shit won't shut the fuck up!" I could not breathe. My friend was trying to shove the guy off of me, but he just kept squeezing harder. When he finally let go, I just lied there on the bed, motionless, crying. I couldn't believe someone would do that to another human being. Still, stuff like that would happen all the time. I hear some homophobic shit or someone being aggressively anti-gay, and sometimes I would just walk away, and sometimes I would speak up, and sometimes I would get weird, but I'd never been in a physical fight until this year. I was walking back from Brothers with my boyfriend. We had just had an amazing night. No weird looks from strangers, no awkward encounters with exes or old hookups, just a normal night at the bar with my boyfriend. And as we were walking back to my dorm, some drunk shouts, "Get a room, faggots." So I walked up and I punched him in the throat. Irrational, right? Whoops. But who is he to ruin our perfect night? My mom's advice didn't prepare me for these moments. In some ways, I thank Notre Dame for teaching me the lessons that my mom didn't, or maybe couldn't. But at the same time, I feel like just trying to be myself in this environment is like trying to reach that top shelf. Are you trying to tell me I should wait till I'm graduated, older, and taller to finally reach it? Or should I just think first and not reach for the glass at all? Why is it so much harder here? I'm scared. I'm scared for my own senior year. I'm scared for what's going to happen next. But what I fear most is how I will react when there is no time to think before I act.
To my left, your right, is Breen Phillips Hall, one of the women's residence halls on campus. All of our residence halls are single sex, I know, but that's just how it is. Currently, there are 29, 15 male dorms, and 14 women's dorms. BP was built in 1939 and is currently home of the Babes.
During my sophomore year, I started talking to this guy who, at that time, I really liked. He had always been very nice to me, and while I didn't know him well, I had put my trust in him. One night, we were texting, and it was getting late, and, well, I was just messing around. I didn't really know where we were going with this relationship, and I had never tried sexting before. So I told him I missed him. I told him I wish he could hold me. I told him I wanted to kiss him. But like I said, I had never done this before. So I asked him what he wanted. And he told me all the things he wanted to do with me. It was kind of romantic, you know. I imagined that he was with me and that he was actually doing the things he texted. But when I asked him if he had any fantasies, I meant like doing it while watching a football game or getting a hickey. Instead, he said, "I want to watch you get gang raped." I had no idea what to say to him. As a rape survivor, I could not even begin comprehending that statement. It immediately brought back vivid, terrible memories, as well as fear and disappointment in myself for allowing myself to trust again or even consider the possibility of having sex. I couldn't believe that this Notre Dame guy, a guy that I went to class with and acted on a normal day-to-day basis, was actually sexualizing rape. You don't need to rape someone to be part of the problem. When you sexualize rape or make a rape joke, the problem becomes even more ingrained and harder to resolve.
When I first stepped on this campus 4 years ago, I was pumped for college. I was going on my 15th year of Catholic school, and I knew that by the time I was a senior, I'd have my whole life figured out, you know? So yeah, I've got a job lined up after graduation, and I have made the greatest friends of a lifetime. But I am still keenly aware of the fact that I did not get the most out of Notre Dame, especially on the social side. It would be all too easy for me to blame the stressed gender relations that I experienced during college on pariahs and single-sex dorms. To some extent, those were definitely part of the problem. But the biggest hurdle for me socially, that had to have been the hookup culture. The hookup culture at Notre Dame is something that affects everyone. But being a black girl makes it so much more complicated. I'd go home with a cute guy after a party, and instead of small talk or foreplay, he would say something like, "I've never seen a black girl naked." Like that was the biggest penny dropping line I'd ever heard. "You never seen a black girl naked? Oh my Lord, well honey, you must be deprived. Let me show you what you've been missing out on." Seriously. I've heard that line one too many times. Sometimes I walked out. Sometimes I just laughed it off. But every single time that I heard that line, I would think to myself the next morning, did he think that was supposed to be sweet? Or is that all I was to him? Is that all I am?
I will always be an advocate for the victim. I will always show my support for the victim, regardless of age or gender, what she's wearing, or how drunk he was. Except when it's me. Except when I am the victim. I was 19 years old. I woke up in a room, alone, on the floor, naked. I still take the blame. He said sorry. He bought me Plan B. I was bruised all over, from my hips to my lips. It's been 2 years, and I still take the blame. I flirted with him. I led him on. I was drunk. I was high. I didn't say no. I didn't push him away. This wasn't your fault, my friends say. It's on him too, you know? I still take the blame. I was raped, and I still take the blame. I get very petty and stupid when people assume that I'm straight. And I understand they are only assuming it because that's the way I act. The problem is, before I'm defined by my queerness, I'm defined by my shyness. I see a cute guy walking down the street, I blush and turn away. But maybe I'm not nervous to flirt with him or talk to him or get his number. Maybe I'm just nervous. I don't know anyone shyer than me. I mean, of course I don't. They're shy. And I'm single. Really, really single. I've never even kissed anyone. So how am I supposed to come out in a situation like that? I can't even tell people when I'm having a bad day. How am I supposed to tell them I'm having a bye day? Which is every day, by the way. So when I tell people I've given a straight impression, that's not exactly true. I've probably given an asexual impression. But I'm not straight and I'm not asexual. I'm bi. It's a really cool identity. I came to the realization that I'm bi when I looked deep inside my heart and finally accepted the fact that most girls are better looking than most guys. Girls are really, really hot, okay? So hot, wow. Not most, though. Some? You know who I mean. Or maybe you don't, that's fine. But I do. I told my best friend only that I'm Q for questioning. I think that's the Q hanging on to the end of LGBTQ. Or maybe that Q is queer. Or both. I'm probably stepping on somebody's toes here. Sorry, Q people. I'd like to be B, right in the middle of the acronym. But honestly, at this point, the whole thing is pretty theoretical. Because I'm shy. Really, really shy. And that's the bigger problem here, really. So this is my anonymous coming out. For me, and anyone else who needs a pep talk right now, in the immortal words of Zac Efron's tattoo, YOLO.
We've made our way all the way to North Dining Hall, one of 2 dining halls on campus. Students are free to use either one. All students on campus have a meal plan, either 21 meals a week or 14 meals plus flexible spending money.
1:06 p.m., Thursday. Tears spring to her eyes. A preemptive apology. She kneels before this porcelain altar, the same way she kneels in the back of boys' cars on Friday nights. Her 2 fingers probe the delicate tissue of her throat, wiggling, squirming, not unlike the way 2 fingers probe her in the hidden corners of dark cinemas. Success! A little gasp, sputtering and choking, living anew the guilt of last night. The taste of her weakness burns her insides. She usually swallows, but in this ritual she spits. Spits her anger and self-loathing into that cold, unfeeling bowl. She loses control as her body takes over. She retches, convulses, the weight of her pain shooting to the surface. Release. She sighs and rises from her work. She wipes her mouth and smiles, triumphant in the mirror, the way she always does, for a job well done.
This is St. Liam's Health Center. There is no actual St. Liam. The namesake comes from a racehorse owned by the donor, although Notre Dame has another story to tell. Here you can find counseling center on the 3rd floor, a pharmacy, and other health services.
I'm a virgin. Yes, I'm serious. No, I'm not gay. Or asexual. I'm not a religious fanatic. I'm Catholic, and yeah, maybe my upbringing has something to do with it. But I don't believe that I'll go to hell for having sex out of wedlock. And I don't think you will either. But I might tell you to go to hell if you don't stop asking stupid questions. I'm not a prude. Why does everyone always jump to that conclusion? That I'm averse to the idea, or even the discussion of sex, just because I haven't done it. They'll treat me like I'm a normal person, and then boom! One awkward never have I ever game later, and it's the tiptoe treatment. Don't be scared. You can't catch virginity. I promise. Even my doctor plays into it.
She asks me in her crisp Russian accent if I'm sexually active. I tell her no. And her widened eyes pop out from her thick blue eyeliner. You have never been! I assure her that no, I haven't. I would remember. Well, she says, we'll be having zip-up smear anyway. At least she stops looking at me like I have a third arm. I get into position, and she asks me to tell her if it hurts. Now, I hold out as long as I can, but eventually I have to let her know that no, all is not well. that is quite bad. Please stop now! She shakes her blonde head at me, disapproval filtering through her thick mascara. Then, she flings open the door to the exam room. My legs are still spread, mind you. Bring out the pediatric scope for this one, she yells to the nurse in the hallway. She's a virgin. She looks back at me and says, don't worry, you'll get past this soon. I can't tell if she means the exam or my virginity. Either way, I'm not so sure. I just hope that she takes care of the exam and leaves the rest to me.
My counselor thinks that I should send a letter to my attacker to help with the healing process. I'll never send it to him, but I guess I can share it with you. Here goes. I pound on the car windows. My hands tremble as I reach for the door handle. It won't open. I know it won't because I watched you lock it, but I have to try. Tears run down my face, and I look to you with pleading eyes. But you're mocking me, ridiculing me. You have no mercy for me, even though I've cared so much for you. Don't worry, you say. Just do what I say and everything will be over soon. I won't hurt you. You climb on top of me, and I resist, so you hurt me. I pound on the windows again and again, praying to God that someone will hear me. You hit me, and I can't believe it. You said that I was special. You told me that I was special. If I'm so special, how could you hurt me? You're getting angrier, and I'm getting weaker. You push me into the cold back seat, and I grasp onto the leather, needing something to hold on to, something to get me through this. You don't care how terrified I am. Ignore the tears in my eyes tear my dress. Stop it, I beg, but you keep undressing me with those cold, angry, unflinching hands. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! I beg. Until you hit me, until you say, shut up, you filthy bitch, you're the one who wanted this. You take off my underwear as I beg, no, 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 and you kiss my face. I try to turn away, but you force me to look at you, force me to touch you, and then ask if I like it? No, I don't like it, I hate you. I have no strength, and as you rip your clothes off and open my legs, I lie back and wait for it to be over. You've already taken everything from me at this point. You've shattered me. Once you finish, you lie on top of me. You compliment me. You're beautiful, but it didn't have to be this way. I quietly ask you to get off of me and take me home. After what feels like an eternity, you get off and take me home. I walk into the house, fake a smile for my parents, and tell them how much fun I had at prom. I'm ashamed to tell them the truth. I worry they'll think badly of me if I knew. It's been 1.5 years since that night, and I'm still hurting. For months, I buried my pain in an eating disorder, and now I'm trying to heal. You have given me so many fears. I'm scared to take a shower. I'm scared to be in my dorm room alone. I'm scared to walk down the hall at night. I'm scared to be me because I worry you'll find me and destroy me again. You found so much joy in what you did to me, in what you put me through, and I suffer every minute of every day. Thanks to you, I take medication to suppress the pain. Thanks to you, I cannot sleep. I cannot erase the images from my mind of what you did to me. Thanks to you, I spend my breaks at home, hiding. You've broken me. But here today, I triumph over you. I tell my story and I find a little bit of peace. I find justice. And I will continue to tell my story, and you will lose your power over me. You have taken so much from me, and I'm taking it back. I will pick up the pieces that you left me in, and I will glue them back together.
At 225 feet, the main building, formerly the administration building, is the second tallest building on campus. For the last 50 years or so, it has actually been used for administrative purposes. Fun fact, there are 4.35 million bricks in the main building.
Do you remember when the university sent out those 4 emails on sexual assault the first week of school? Yeah, one of those was mine. It was one night. It doesn't define me. Let's just say he was an athlete, we were drunk, and I went back to his dorm room, even though I didn't really want to. But I figured, whatever, it'll be fine. I'd had random hookups before, but never like this. He started taking things too far, and he ignored me when I said no. He just wouldn't stop. So I got scared, and I just laid there until he finished and passed out so I could sneak out of his room. The next morning, I knew that I had to report it. Because if I didn't talk about it, if I kept it bottled up, I'd just feel worse and worse. So I told my roommates and then my RA. As soon as I started saying, last night I was drinking and a guy, she stopped me and warned me gently that she was a mandatory reporter and so she'd have to report anything that I told her. I assured her that's what I wanted. So we went to our rector and I repeated the story. My rector called Title IX to set up a meeting, and that's when the 6-week process of reporting my rape began. Title IX offered me a medical exam, but the last thing that I wanted was to let someone else go prodding around down there less than 24 hours after the area had just been violated. So I said no. Title IX also set me up with a resource coordinator who would check up on me every now and then to make sure that I was doing all right. And the university issued a no contact order between the guy and myself, and I got to choose what dining hall I wanted to eat in, and he didn't get to go there. When I realized that he was in one of my lecture classes, I called my resource coordinator and he was switched out within the hour. Word got around, of course. I had classes with many of his friends. Some went out of their way to treat me nice, but others just treated me like I was the worst person in the world. I only had to describe my rape in graphic detail once, and that was to the Title IX investigator. I tried not to begrudge her all of her questions. I knew that she had to compile all the details in her report. She had to talk to my friends, to my roommates, and to the guy, my attacker, too. When the report was ready, I had another meeting with Title IX, and they gave me my options. Either take it to trial or drop it. If I dropped it, I'd have a 6-month period to reopen the case, and after that, it would be closed forever. And if I took it to trial, well, the guy would be kicked out if he was found guilty. He'd lose his athletic scholarship, and Lord knows how else his life would be screwed up. The board also had the right to kick him out if they determined that he was a threat to campus, but they deemed him safe enough, so who was I to kick him out? The board didn't try to sway my decision. They were pretty neutral. I appreciated their lack of agenda, but I really hated that I only had 2 options. Either get him kicked out or give him no consequences. Take it to trial or drop it. It was so all or nothing. Ultimately, I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. He was drunk, maybe even blacked out, and although I think he knew what he was doing, maybe he didn't know the exact definition of consent. When I dropped it, he was completely off the hook. It was as if nothing had happened. He didn't even have to go to community standards. You know, I know people who've had to go there for doing way less than raping someone. Overall, I think the way that Notre Dame deals with rape has improved drastically in the last decade or so, but there's still something seriously wrong. Why is there no middle ground? No happy medium between getting him kicked off and letting him completely off the hook? What about obligatory therapy, or classes, or something? Does it have to be so all or nothing?
Currently, there are a couple buildings being constructed on campus. A few on DeBartolo Quad, and a couple near the Hesburgh Library, which is also under construction.
The looming question. What is your gender? Well, fuck if I know. Most days, I don't feel like a woman, but I don't think I feel like a man either. What does a man feel like? Sometimes I like putting on makeup and doing my hair, but most days I just wear a sweatshirt and whatever pants. Online, my writing style has been called masculine, to the point where I'm defaulted to he or him unless I specify otherwise, but I would never be mistaken for a dude on the streets. So I'm stuck in the middle. Neither here nor there, neither man nor woman. What is a man? What is a woman? In a world where men have long ponytails and women wear pants, does liking lipstick and fashion or working on cars and drinking beer really mean anything? I mean, we've moved on from the old system of vagina equals woman, penis equals man, right? Now we have non-binary, agender, gender fluid, and gender flux. So what even is a gender? And what is sexual orientation? I'm stuck there too. I like men and women and people that are neither or both. So am I bisexual, pansexual? Which do I choose if I'm neither man nor woman? Could I still identify as lesbian even if I only sometimes like women? I am neither black nor white, neither straight nor gay, neither man nor woman. Stuck as neither, or maybe stuck as both. I have no more idea what I am than what I'll do after graduation this May. Stuck in the middle, I have no place to go back to and no plan to go forward, but it feels like the world is with me at least. Like, I'm not the only one searching for answers, not the only one who still doesn't identify as part of a group. So maybe I don't have to fall neatly into one category or another. Who knows?
And that concludes our tour for this evening. Thank you for visiting our beautiful campus and listening to me talk for about an hour nonstop. Oh, snap. I have a group meeting to go to, but I'd like to remind you that there's a pep rally on North Quad at 5, and the dining halls close at around 8. I do have time for a couple questions.
Yeah, actually. So, how are gender relations on campus?
Gender relations, they're working on them. If you're interested, there's the gender studies program office on the 3rd floor of O'Shaughnessy Hall, and the gender relations center on the 3rd floor of the fund. I'm not really the guy to talk to. Any other questions?
So are same-sex dorms and parietals meant so students don't have sex?
No. The dorm system is meant to promote a sense of community, and parietals promotes community by making people feel safe in their dorms at 2 a.m. or midnight on school nights. Yeah.
My dad went here in the 70s. Where's Rape Road?
The official name is it's St. Mary's Road. It's located between the lakes. Now there's a bus and a shuttle that takes you both ways at night. It's well lit. Any other questions?
There's a gay group on campus, but isn't Notre Dame Catholic?
Yeah, Notre Dame is Catholic, and there is a student group for LGBTQ students, but Catholicism and the acceptance of LGBTQ students aren't mutually exclusive. Yes.
How do you feel about Notre Dame community?
How do I feel? Well, I guess I was immediately aware of the Notre Dame bubble. Like, here it's spirit and familiar and safe. You know, it took like a solid month for the news to break that Pluto wasn't a planet. You know, sometimes reality kind of seeps in a little slow around here. Yeah, I gotta go. But thank you so much for a wonderful tour, and welcome to the University of Notre Dame.